Hello everyone and welcome to WhatCulture Gaming. I'm Josh, joined today by Kirsten. Say hello, Kirsten.
Hello, Kirsten.
Obviously, as you might have guessed from the title, this video is about Assassin's Creed Valhalla, which was unveiled yesterday. You can go on the channel and watch Kirsten and Scott's reaction to the teaser trailer. But not only do we know the setting and the general characters, Ubisoft have been doing a bunch of interviews and there have been a bunch of preview write-ups going around a bunch of sites, including Eurogamer and Game Informer, which act as the main sources today, that have really dug deep into what fans and players can expect from the next big Assassin's Creed epic. And it sounds like they're making quite a few changes, to be honest. It's still in the same RPG vein as Origins and Odyssey, but they are making quite a lot of considerable changes. And as someone who is a lapsed Assassin's Creed fan, I actually took quite a break from Syndicate to Odyssey, and I've recently jumped into Odyssey. I'm excited for this. I know you haven't played it in a while, Kirsten, but you know, without repeating too much from your video yesterday, what's your gut reaction from seeing the trailer?
I mean, I actually had like chills. Like I wasn't even exaggerating. I had goosebumps and chills. Like all my hairs were up. It was just a brilliant trailer. The soundtrack was fantastic. I think the story looks brilliant. And yeah, there's just always something so appealing about the whole Viking mythology and lore and stuff. So yeah, I mean, not as an Assassin's Creed game, because it still doesn't feel like an Assassin's Creed game to me, but as a standalone game, I think it looks brilliant. So it's definitely something I will play, but yes, whether it's an Assassin's Creed game, I don't know. To me, it still doesn't feel Assassin's Creed.
Yeah, we'll get to that. There's some details about that towards the end, whether it might convince people or not that this is more like the older Assassin's Creed in terms of story and characters and stuff. But yeah, to get the basic stuff out of the way, obviously it's called Assassin's Creed Valhalla. It's coming holiday 2020. It's going to be a cross-generation game, so it's going to release on the PlayStation 4 and the PlayStation 5 and the Xboxes as well. But it has been built from the ground up specifically for the new consoles to make the most of those machines. So hopefully it'll be a big jump in, you know, technical quality and graphical quality from Odyssey. It's made by the Black Flag and Origins team, and I know a lot of people have immense love for those games. Funnily enough, they're probably the Assassin's Creed games I've played the least of, so I don't have much of a base for that, but I know there's a lot of love there. So yeah, we should jump into the setting, I think. Obviously, you can't have, like the developers have said in these interviews, you can't have Vikings without, you know, Scandinavia and stuff. So the opening of the game is going to be set in Norway, but then it will quickly move to England. It has a lot of settings and cities from England that are going to be playable, and it's been described as Dark Ages England, obviously. And you will be able to play across the three big cities, which are London, Winchester, and an olden day version of York, which I'm a big fan of. And it will the story will focus on the battle between the different kingdoms which make up Northumbria, East Anglia, Mercia, and Wessex, which I'm here for this. I'm always, obviously, as a Brit, I'm here for anything set in Britain, whether it's modern day, whether it's, you know, ancient history or whatever. So this sounds exciting to me. The fact that they've got these big cities and they're going into this kind of, you know, Viking heritage, because even the worst Assassin's Creed games, when it comes to the environments and the settings and stuff, they're always so spot on and so lovingly recreated that you would expect nothing less here.
Yeah, like I agree. I think, like I said, as a fellow Brit, it's nice to see something that kind of tackles our history and something that's a little bit more familiar and known to us, instead of sort of playing these games and just sort of thinking like, well, I have no idea where I am, I've never been to these places. So yeah, to kind of sort of play something and be like, oh, I recognise this, oh yeah, I remember learning about this. So yeah, that's going to be yeah, really interesting. I just like how their kind of games are kind of jumping into more of like British and England territory now is a lot more fun for us Brits.
Yeah, 100%. It sounds like they're really kind of trying to dive into the actual history of it as well, obviously, as you would assume, but it's not just going to be a basic tale of good versus evil. You're not just kind of the invading Viking force versus the good evil, the good Englishman, or, you know, vice versa, the good invading force versus the evil Englishman. We know that the King of Wessex, who is the dude we saw in the trailer, who is, you know, narrating writing and signing the seal. Yes. He has been described as someone who is not very nice, but the developers are planning on, giving all of these characters nuances and depth, and not just having, like I said, this binary morality tale of good versus evil. They are trying to get some real, almost kind of probably Game of Thrones inspired depth to it, richness. You know what I mean? No one's just purely good. There are shades of grey, and that kind of links with the more RPG route that they're taking. You know what I mean? You're going to be able to deal with these difficult decisions throughout the narrative that heavily impact the game. So I'm here for that. I think for me, from what little I've played of Odyssey, I've only played about 20 hours or something. I really like the way that they draw a lot of the characters and a lot of the different factions. Like, they're not just basic good guys and bad guys. You can side with kind of whoever you want and kind of feel your way through these cultures. And I always think that's awesome in games to do, because it does make you feel more part of the world and the world itself richer.
Yes, it's always nice to have that decision as to whether you want to be a good guy or a bad guy. And I did read that even though I think the main character, which I don't know if you're aware, I'm pretty sure that the main character could be either a man or a woman.
Yes, I should have mentioned that at the beginning.
Ivor. So we see Ivor in the trailer, but yeah, I think we can be a man or a woman, which is going to be really, really good, because I love a game where you get to sort of customize your character a little bit more. From what I can hear, it seems to be very customizable. But yeah, kind of having this home-based settlement where everything kind of takes place is a really brilliant idea, and being able to kind of customize that area as well with shops and tattoo parlors and all that sort of stuff, but also, like you said, being able to make those decisions and have it impact your story. It's just, that's the best part of an RPG, is feeling like the decisions that you do make will have an impaction on the world around you, instead of just being like, oh well, I decided to kill this person but nobody seems to be bothered about it. So I think that's a brilliant way to do it, and I'm really interested to see how that will impact the storyline and the world as it goes on, because and how far they take that, because will it just affect the storyline, or will it physically affect the world, as in will it become darker, or will there be more dead bodies lying around and diseases and stuff. It's really interesting to see how far they will take that.
I do, yes, that's so tantalizing, the idea of the world itself, physically changing, not just the relationships between characters. That stuff to me always makes me feel so satisfied with the choices I made in the game, and it makes those consequences feel so real. You mentioned there the home base. That's probably the biggest change to the whole game, is the way the developers have designed this new title, because in Odyssey and Origins, you're essentially just kind of unfogging the map, as they put it. You're going from point to point. You don't really return to areas you've gone to before, apart from a sparse amount of quests. But here you're going to have your Viking home base where you set out from, and you always return there, and your choices are reflected in how this settlement builds and how it changes. And like you said, you get things like tattoo parlors, you get weddings, you join clans together through marriages and stuff. They've said, the direct quote from one of the producers is, quote, "The settlement is really your home in the world. You grow in this place in terms of both buildings and people. You always start in your settlement, and then you go out into the world, you go on a journey." Then in a Eurogamer interview, they said, "Instead of exploring one territory, then moving on to another and having no real opportunity or reason to return, the settlement changes the structure. So you'll go on an adventure, then be encouraged to come back to your settlement, and it changes the way we're playing the game and how we're making it." So to me, this kind of sounds a bit like Red Dead Redemption 2 with the camp system in that you always start from the camp and you go out and you can spend days or weeks or whatever in the wild exploring, doing side quests. But then when you come back, there is a feeling that you've affected it, and if they make this even bigger than that, with an entire town that changes with your actions, that to me is tantalizing. Having a home base is something the Assassin's Creed series has kind of not had for a while. I know you had the train in Syndicate, but I don't know about you, but for me, when it comes to open world games, the idea of unfogging the map isn't totally appealing if things feel disposable. I like to see my reactions on places I've been and return there with, updated weapons and skills and knowledge and stuff like that.
Yeah, no, I agree. Like I said, you want it to have an impact. You want to sort of see how things do change with the decisions that you make. That's one of the best things. It's like, even these simple things like in Dishonored, where, the more people you kill, the more like plague rats there are, and more people that are infected with the plague. It's just little things that you just think, oh, maybe if I didn't do that, this wouldn't have happened, and maybe people would like me more, and the town would be different. So yeah, like that's quite appealing to me, because like I said, it kind of throws you into the game a little bit more and makes it feel a little bit more real than just kind of not having to face those consequences.
Yeah, I think it ups the emotional stakes as well. Like if you have this place you're constantly returning to, if people start dying, or if people start getting sick, or if it's under siege or something, then you will have that emotional investment already there. So it's going to make those moments, those big set pieces, and they have teased harsh decisions that you're going to have to make even more impactful, which I love. And moving into more gameplay elements like the actual combat and stuff, they are also trying to take a slightly different approach to Odyssey while keeping the freedom of choice and the amount of variety in the combat. Essentially, they are going to keep the idea that there's a lot of gear that you're going to be unlocking, but just like the areas in the game, it's not going to be disposable. You're not just going to be constantly picking up new gear and replacing your weapons. Every piece of armor or every weapon is going to be unique this time around, and then you can upgrade it so that you don't have to dispose of it. They mentioned that the starting weapons and armor that you get could be used right through to the end of the game, because the way you can upgrade them and imbue them with more power will make them viable options for as long as you go on. And again, that was somewhat of an issue I had with Odyssey, in that I just felt like I was picking up so much stuff that I never had any kind of attachment to my weapons or my armor. And when I did find one that I really enjoyed, I didn't want to swap it out, even though I was getting no benefits from using this lower tier item.
Yeah, I think there's nothing worse than when you have a game that just throws too many weapons at you. It's like one of the issues I had with Borderlands is how it's constantly throwing these different weapons at you, and you're like, should I change? Like, should this be my weapon? And yeah, to be able to sort of say like, well, the weapons that you have from the very beginning can be customized and upgraded to the point that you can have them throughout the entire game is really good, because you always have that option to then change it out if you want to. But if you're like, well, actually, I want to upgrade it the way that I want it to, and I want it to look the way that I want it to, just kind of adds more to that customizable aspect, and just makes it a bit more personal to you then. So yeah, it should be a little bit more of a enjoyable experience. And from what I can gather, I think pretty much everything is customizable in this game, which is really interesting. From what I've seen, I mean, I don't think I've played a game that sounds as customizable as this one. Like even like the Viking longboats are customizable, which I just think is super cool. So not only are you able to change this town and add in whatever you want to add and whatever shops and villagers and all that sort of stuff, but your own longboat, like to be able to customize that when you're going into battle, like, yes, this is mine and I am going to conquer. Like, that is awesome. That's a really good idea.
Great segue that as well, Krista, because we've got some more information about the longboats. Obviously, the iconic image of Vikings is them on the longboats, but they are kind of altering the way that boat exploration and combat has worked in previous games. So apparently there's going to be a far more limited focus on actual combat. You won't be engaging in the naval warfare as much in this game, but these longboats are essentially going to become an extension of yourself as you get around the world. And they mentioned that you go to raid military camps that are offshore using this boat. So you essentially, you're going to invading these small islands and then you're reaping the rewards, which sounds like, exactly the kind of Viking power fantasy that they're trying to convey. Yeah, exactly. But like you say, like the longboats are deeply customizable. You're going to get your own crew and stuff like that. So there's all those elements from past AC games are returning, but they're being, by the sounds of it, expanded upon and built upon and made just in generally a little bit more robust, which I like. And that's the same with the skill trees. They've said that they don't want to refer to the skill tree as a skill tree and would prefer to call it a skill graph. Now, to me, that means nothing, but from what they elaborated on, it does sound quite cool. So essentially, instead of just having a bunch of skills that kind of, upgrade 10% of your damage or 10% of your accuracy and stuff like that, they're going to be, like the weapons and armor, more unique and help you build specific play styles that that are just a bit more interesting in my opinion. And this comes with the leveling system in general. In Assassin's Creed Odyssey, you can't fight you can try to fight enemies that are way beyond your level, but you will get absolutely killed and murdered dead because you just aren't there yet. They're not getting content that way this time. They're doing it based more on the gear you have and the skills you've acquired rather than just arbitrarily locking stuff off because you're not at that level yet, which I like personally.
Yeah, I think there's nothing worse than when you're trying to sort of kind of carry on, and then you get to a certain boss or a certain part of the game and it's like, oh no, you can't come in here because you're not high enough level, and then you've got to go off and kind of grind away, and it's just so frustrating when it does have like a good story. You just want to progress. So yeah, being able to kind of have that so you can just do these little upgrades, and also taking into the account of the weapons and armor that you have is will hopefully make it a little bit more of an enjoyable experience when it comes to trying to follow the storyline, I think, because I think the story, from what I can gather, seems brilliant, and I am all for a good story in a video game like this one. So yes, I absolutely hate it when you're trying to progress within the story and it's like, no, not allowed, you're not level 20 yet. So yes, I'm for that as well.
Yeah, that's like the biggest change they're sort of making to the whole approach to how they've designed the game, I think. They don't want things based purely on numbers or the UI, essentially. They don't want you following waypoints mindlessly and ignoring everything in the world. They're trying to make it a more immersive, grounded experience where, you know, you have to use your eyes, you have to be in the world to get the most out of it, and you're not just kind of looking at numbers and, you know, number crunching and stuff like that, which I'm all for, and I think the Assassin's Creed franchise as a whole could benefit from. But yeah, I want to know what you guys think down in the comments below. Are you looking forward to AC Valhalla, and are you interested by all of the gameplay details you've heard today? Remember to check out the websites I mentioned at the beginning, Eurogamer, Game Informer, that's where a bulk of these interviews are located, and check out WhatCulture.com for way more coverage on everything Assassin's Creed going forward. Even if you don't though, I've been Josh, this has been Kirsten, and we will see you soon. Bye.
Bye.